import dealing with the paralyzation of the city of Austin as part of a PSYOP PR stunt that I think is going to backfire pretty nastily. But that's coming up in a moment. First off, George Washington. Firearms are second only to the Constitution in importance. They are the people's liberty teeth. And that, of course, was the terrorist, according to Homeland Security, George Washington, enemy of America. George Soros, on the other hand, is the true father of America in Al Gore man-bear-pig parlance. Half man, half bear, half pig. You're not looking at a funeral for a head of state or perhaps a fallen president. You're not looking at the arrival of the Martian ambassador to Austin, Texas, where we produce my syndicated radio show and the nightly news. No, that's just a few hours ago. My wife couldn't get to where my son was at to pick him up after a sporting event for several hours. The entire city was paralyzed. School buses picking up children were more than 2 hours late. Car wrecks happened all over the city. When Obama has come to town and locked things down, people have complained. I have seen a lot of presidential motorcades. This was 10 times the disaster that those are. What was it for? A slain police officer, Jaime Padron, who was shot in the neck late last week by someone hopped out of their mind on a psychotropic drug, Xanax. And did the Austin Police Department point out that they know full well that almost all the major school shootings, the sergeant shooting people in Afghanistan, in almost all these cases, they're on Paxil, Prozac, Xanax, psychotropics that put them into the state. The guy that shot the cop, he had no criminal record. He'd never been in trouble. He was a computer programmer. He was stumbling around, acting weird in a Walmart. He went there, his roommate said, to get his Xanax prescription, had a chemical imbalance, murdered this peace officer. And cops have a rough job. It's a dangerous profession. Overall, I appreciate police. But let me say this. I heard the Austin police chief on the radio saying, if you don't like the traffic, you mean the complete shutdown of the city at rush hour, just too bad. And you see, that's what this was all really about, a giant exercise of power. And we're going to break some news here for you. That's the route given by the Austin Police Department, as you can see there, source Austin Police, to the Austin American-Statesman from yesterday's paper. And up in North Austin, almost in Round Rock, they had his memorial today. And it left at 1 o'clock and wasn't out of Austin until after 5. You heard me right, 4+ hours. Austin already has some of the worst traffic in the country. It shut the city down because the police chief also told people that when they saw the parade on the other side of the road to pull off and show respect. So citizens showed up everywhere to block traffic and pull off and have car wrecks to do this. A total disaster. I guarantee you, if they would have asked this slain officer, do you want us to shut traffic down for 4 or 5 hours in Austin and cause wrecks and all this for your memory, he would have said no. But wait, it gets worse. I had a bad feeling today when I began to get this news. My wife called me panicking because she was stuck in traffic for hours. People were running out of gas. People were wrecking in front of her. I mean, it was the entire city was shut down. This was like something out of a movie. They called that thing out in California Carmageddon when they had to fix a bridge. This wasn't a stinking bridge and half of L.A. shut down for a day. This was 3 of the major roads. But side issue, I always give you the key news at the end. Here is the breaking news. I said, wait a minute. This guy was going to San Angelo. That's northwest of Austin. Why did they drive southwest? And then I went, wait a minute, do a MapQuest and see how it routes you. And it turns out there's almost 70 miles difference. He's in North Austin. It routes you on the toll road with almost no traffic. You can drive 80 miles an hour on it, right through major country highways, right to San Angelo. That's the route that MapQuest, there on screen, gives you from that church in North Austin, far North Austin, actually on the edge of Round Rock. Most busy stretch of highway in the United States, I-35. How did they route it? This is incredible. They routed it south down I-35, which is bumper to bumper in the middle of the day, and down 71, where my wife was going to pick my son up, panicking, stuck in traffic for hours, about to run out of gas, cars cutting in front of her, wrecks everywhere. She said it was like Road Warrior. Okay, total shutdown. There's the route. Straight shot on a toll road and then a major highway through the country. No one out there to his hometown. This fallen hero. They did this as a PSYOP stunt. It's one thing that Bill Clinton sits on the tarmac over and over again and holds all the planes up for an hour. That's terrible. It's another thing if Obama comes to town or Bush and shuts things down for an hour. They come all the time here. It's a capital city. Maybe 30, 40 minutes, maybe 10 cars, 20 cars. Folks, this was police from all over the state. The motorcade was reportedly up to 7 miles long. And they the state police barricaded, blockaded, paralyzed, shut down the highway. And this went on from 1 o'clock until past 5, so 4.5 hours or more. And it's still going on. They're sending the motorcade. That'd be like if I wanted to go to Dallas driving to San Antonio. Well, you guys who don't live in Texas, will the crew please pull up just a map, a highway map of Texas? This would be the equivalent if I was going to go to Dallas, that's 4 hours or 200 miles north of Austin. This would be like driving to San Antonio an hour and a half south just for fun and then turning around and going back. This would be like if I wanted to go to England, I wouldn't go east. I'd get on a plane and fly to China first and then fly across Russia to England. They call it butt backwards. And then I heard the local news radio going, shut up, traitors. Oh, I haven't gotten to the rest of the story. It gets even crazier as a PSYOP. We told you they'd shut down some roads. And callers going, but I can't get my kids. And the host going, shut up, you knew it. And callers calling in sycophantically saying, how dare you anti-American people be against this hero? Because then I start listening. My wife's stuck in traffic. She doesn't know what to do. She's running out of gas. She's totally stuck. Again, show that map. Show that map. San Angelo is northwest. They sent them south 50 miles and then had them turn to the west. So total south about 25 and then another 25 on the map says it's 50 miles out of the way that way. And then another, actually I was wrong because I looked at the map a minute ago. It's another, what, 60 miles? From Bee Cave right there, how far is it to San Angelo? Because you got 20-something miles, another 20, so that's 40 plus. And then I think actually it's like 60 from there. So I'm sorry, I estimated wrong. 100 miles out of the way. Let's go 100 miles out of the way. There's Texas. This would be the equivalent if I wanted to go from Austin to Dallas, driving to San Antonio first and then back. Or how about if I wanted to go to Dallas, how about I drive to Mexico first and then go back? Because, you know, to show respect for the officer, how about we shut down every road in Texas? I remember a few years ago, a dog got shot, a cop dog in Houston. And they shut down part of the highway and had thousands of police on taxpayer money. Here's another thing I want to say. I saw police driving real fast and recklessly this morning. I kind of enjoyed it. I got behind them and went a little faster because I didn't notice they weren't writing tickets. I see police everywhere just freaking out. We've finally been attacked. First cop in decades killed in Austin, you know, that wasn't killed in a car wreck or whatever. My gosh, and everybody's out to get us. This whole culture of paranoia. If you want to stop getting everybody killed, how about you look at Xanax and Prozac on their own inserts, admitting it causes violent outbreaks? But wait, there's more. I sent Rob Jacobson to try to get footage of this after I learned my wife was stuck in traffic. He couldn't get there in 30 minutes on major side roads like Old Torf and Congress. Those were shut down. You understand, you shut down I-35, you shut down 71, you shut down these other roads, everybody spills into the other little roads. It was gridlock. He couldn't get it's not even 5, it's like from our office, it's what, 1.5 miles to where that motorcade was? He couldn't get 1.5 miles in 30 minutes. And he had the high-def camera there. There were Mexican flags everywhere because this guy was Hispanic. How about an American flag if you're Hispanic? There were American flags. It's on the news. We're taping the news. What shut things down was the police chief saying, show respect. This was insane. This caused a major disaster, wrecks all over the place. I mean, I'm talking about giant highway shutdown, cars overheating, I-35 shut down for 3 of the 5 hours. Shut down. The #1 interstate in the country and the busiest spot in the country is the Austin to San Antonio corridor. You call that respect to this guy who got killed by some Xanax head? And it was on the news. Mexican flags everywhere. You know, that's kind of an insult to Americans who fought in the military, happen to be Hispanic, or the 30+% of the Texas revolutionaries that helped found Texas, to say if you're Hispanic, wave Mexican flags. Like if you're Hispanic, you're a Mexican. What about all the other Hispanics from the dozens of other Latin American countries? Again, it shows the citizens in this form of hysteria, wanting something patriotic, wanting. It's like when I was on an airplane flying back from out west a few months ago, and there was a dead military serviceman underneath it, and I sat next to the MP who was bringing him back, and they made the airplane sit there while they got the body off, and everybody then got off the plane, and in awe as they loaded it, there was hundreds of police, and they acted like it was the most patriotic thing in the world. What's patriotic is to not steal the death benefits of our military men and women, as the government's done. What's patriotic is not to inject them with deadly vaccines. The point is, the globalists know how it's all about the surface. It's all about the cover story. It's all about making you feel good. It's all about packaging and not the substance. They treat the troops like absolute garbage. Homeland Security lists them as the #1 enemy of the homeland, which is the banker receivership arm. And the Austin police would purposefully, because they're not stupid, with the state police, shut down the capital city for almost 5 hours to show respect. They took him during rush hour through the middle of everywhere, shutting down the major highway, and the news saying, if you see him on the other side, out of respect, pull off. Bedlam, car wrecks. Can you imagine? 1 million+ people metro, 1,300,000 metro. I mean, this was, see on the other side? Total traffic. And then these people with American flags everywhere. I mean, that's right by our office right there, that photo they just showed. And this went on and on and on and on. And there's my son in a field. But the good news was most of the other parents couldn't make it there. So there's my son standing there in a field for 2 hours, and it's like, shut up, Jones. I mean, I heard the local news. They were like, you do not question this. You don't question when the TSA sticks their hands down your pants. You don't question when the IRS takes somebody's house with no due process. Patriotism is sucking government boots. But it doesn't mean actually caring about even the government enforcers. It means bowing down to the image and the idea of it. You know, when the feds kill some cop that exposed their narcotics trafficking, it's all kept real quiet. But when they tell you to get all cry-eyed and they shut your city down as an exercise of power to say, you're the enemy, we can shut this whole city down anytime we want. And have people come out and worship and beg. And you're like, but that town's northwest. Why'd you go south? I mean, it's up there north, perfectly on a toll road out to the country. No traffic, perfect ride out. They wanted this big grand thing saying, look, one of our officers got killed. We're heroes. You're all scum. That's what it was about, a bunch of grandstanding. I heard the head of the police union on the radio last week going, let me just say how these families are not going to need for nothing. And he started, pulled the tape, he started going, because it was like, this is going to be our martyr. This is going to be about us being heroes. But meanwhile, when the police SWAT team the wrong house and shoot a toddler, it's not even news. Meanwhile, when the government ships the drugs in, this is all a psyop opportunity. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. And using the death of this poor police officer who was gunned down in cold blood to make the whole corrupt system look like heroes. And Mayor Lee Leffingwell was part of this, shutting the city down. This is outrageous. But the Queen of England, when I was in England a few years ago, the tour bus drivers were pointing out, and I looked it up, it was true. She shuts different roads down every day in London just to exercise her power.